Okay, we're up to Daf Lamed Dalan Med Aleph, the top of the Amid Itmar. Lul Pesuach Min Abayis L'Aliyah. You basically have between the first floor and the second floor, there was some sort of hatch that was an opening, and they framed the hatch, and they even put walls on the side. So there is like a doorway between the first floor and, let's say, the attic. So Amar Rav Huna, Im Yesh Le Pesach Echad. Again, it's unclear how you understand this Gemara. Pashas, it means if there's only one doorway, so there's a doorway by let's say it's between the first floor and the second floor. Let's go the second floor and the attic. So if by the attic there's one doorway, you put up one mezuzah. If there's an additional doorway, they put a doorway on both the attic entrance and the second floor entrance. So Amar Rav Papa, Shmami, no, the Rav Huna. Rav Papa says, you see from this halacha, Hayin Daruna Disle Arba Bavi. If you have a large chamber that has four entrances, meaning you have over here you're not saying that let's figure out which one is used more. We're saying you put it on. So it's unclear. One shot of the Gemara is that we're dealing with that there's an entrance on the second floor and the attic. Another mahalach, it means, let's actually go with the second mahalach. It's a shaila in the Rishonim. The other mahalach means that by, let's say, the attic, there's two doorways. They've created a second doorway. So if there are two doorways, then it requires both mezuzahs. So says the Gemara, you see from here that we don't go, if you have a room that has multiple entranceways, unlike what we said yesterday, we don't just go by the most commonly used. We say we put up a mezuzah on every single doorway. Even though you use one doorway more frequently than the others, but as long as there are multiple entranceways to the room and they're used, each entranceway requires a mezuzah. Amar Ameimar says, "Hi pischa da karna." If you have an entranceway by the corner, so basically the corner of a room, think of it like like a mamash corner. Think of it just like they cut the end of the corner of the room. So now there's the right wall and the left wall sort of converge, and there's an open way, open on the diagonal. There's an entranceway. I think Artzker has a picture. Chayv mezuzah, it's chayv mezuzah. Amar Rav Ameimar halesle ptzimin, but where are the doorposts? If you just cut the entranceway, there's no doorpost. It's just the walls ending. So the Gemara says, Amar le ade pitzimin. The walls ending is a doorpost. Meaning, it's not like, where they're jagged edges, where it's like not a doorpost. But if you have two walls, the wall ending could also serve as a doorpost. This is obviously very negeya, because sometimes you'll have, when you enter an entranceway, you'll have the lintel on top, and you won't have classic doorways, but you'll have walls ending, creating a doorway. And that's considered a doorway in halacha. Rav Papa ikla beimar Shmuel. Rav Papa went to the house of Mar Shmuel. He saw that there was a side post. There was one side post, but it was on the left side. So the right side is a flat wall, and on the left side is a doorpost. Let's say there's an ending on the left side, but the right side keeps going. So that's a side post on one of the walls, but it's on the left side. So it says the Gemara, Avidle mezuzah. They put up a mezuzah. So Amar Lei. So he understood, as long as this one doorpost requires a mezuzah. The problem is the doorpost over here is on the left side. So Amar Lei, he says to him, Kiman Karameir, who are you following? That you put up a mezuzah when there's only one doorpost. It's Rameir Shitas. We'll see in a moment. Rameir is the one who says that if there's only one doorpost, it requires a mezuzah. The problem is Rameir only said that when it's on the right side, not on the left side. Eimer dam Rameir miyamin. Rameir only said his shita when there's one doorpost and it's on the right side. Because as we'll see in a moment, you always put the mezuzah on the right side because the right side is more chashuv when it comes to laws of mezuzahs. Mismol miyomar, he never said this on the left side. Maihi, how do I know that there's significance to the right side? The Tanya, B'chalal, how do you know that you put mezuzah on the right side? And we're saying the right doorpost, the right side. How do you know? Because the pasuk says beisecha. Beisecha means your house, but we're actually interpreting it biasecha miyamin. Beisecha, it actually means when you come in on the right. How do you say beisecha to mean bisecha miyamin? How do you see it? My Talmud, how do you see it in the words? Amarabba, derech biasecha miyamin. Beisecha doesn't just mean house. We're actually reading a biasecha, the way you enter. Now, how do you enter a room? Generally, you use your right leg. When you enter, when you start walking, you use your right leg. It's the more dominant leg. And therefore, beisecha, which means biasecha, it's however you enter the room first, which is the right side, using your right leg. Therefore, you put the mezuzah on the right doorpost. Derech biasecha miyamin. When a person picks up to move from a stationary position, he uses his right leg first. So because you use your right leg first, therefore you put mezuzah on the right side. So therefore, when he said before, there was one doorpost, and they put it, and the only doorpost on the left side. He said incorrect. It's only on the right side. So even a mayor who says that you follow one doorpost only when the doorpost is on the right and on the left. Now, before we address Rav Meir Shita, the Gemara says a different source for placing mezuzah on the right side. Rav Shmuel bar Acha kamed Rav Pab Mishmei the Rav bar Ula Amr Mehacha. The pasuk says, "V'yikach Yehoyada hakoyin orin echad." Yehoyada took one orin, one chest, whatever. V'yikav chor bedalsei, and he made a hole in the lid. V'yitin oisei etzel mizbeach, and he placed it by the mizbeach miyamin bevay ish beis Hashem. On the right side is one enters. So you see that the pasuk is describing that you enter, it's on the right side. V'nasu shama kehanu shemer asaf is called a kesav move beis Hashem, and they filled the chest with money. But bekitzer, you see that when you enter, it's on the right side. So even a mayor who holds that one doorpost is mechayiv, but only it's on the right side, not the left side. Mayor, what's our mayor? She did the Tanya. If you have a house that only has one doorpost, my time the Mayor, why did the Rabbanan say that you need to have two doorposts? Because as mezuzais is plural, doorposts. So you need both. My time the Mayor, where does our Mayor get it that mezuzais can actually mean a singular doorpost? The Tanya, as we'll see right now, this brisa is Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Akiva. They both agree that mezuzahs generally in the Torah means one, unless the Torah specifies two. How do I get to that conclusion? So mezuzahs, it says mezuzahs twice, right, in the two parshas of Shema. So it says Rabbi Yishmael, Shemani miyat mezuzah shtayim, both are plural. Why do you need to be plural twice? Anytime plural twice, it's a double negative, and therefore they cancel each other out. Kishoyver mezuzah beparsha shniya shein tamaloymar have a riboy achar riboy in riboy achar riboy elamayit. Anytime something is written plural twice, it means to minimize. So it says mezuzahs, which is two, mezuzahs two. So what we end up doing is they cancel each other to actually make it one. That's the Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva says, I agree with you, mezuzah can be one, but you don't have to come to this conclusion. Ain't tzarech. Kishuaymer al mashkef al shtei mezuzahs. The pasuk says when they left Mitzrayim, they had to put the blood al shtei hamezuzahs. That implies that any other time the Torah describes mezuzahs like by the mitzvah mezuzah, it's one. Shein tam lo mishtei, matam lo mishtei zabana av. So that's Rav Meir Shita, that one doorpost is chayiv in mezuzah. Tan Rabbanon uksav tam. They have a mitzvah to write the mezuzah. Yachu yichtivenu al avonim. You might think that you should write it directly on stones. How do you know you write it in a cloth? Maybe you should just write on the wall, on the stones of the wall. Shman v'hayim shmoya. So it says nemar kan ksiva. It says the word uksav tam by mezuzah. The nemar alon ksiva, and it says by a get, to write a get. Just by a get, just like by a get, it's written on a parchment. So over here it has to be written on a parchment. So it says ksiva over here, and it says ksiva by a get. It says the Gemara, there's another place that says ksiva. When Klal Yisrael entered Eretz Yisrael, they were supposed to write the Torah on stones, and they carved it into the stones. It says ksiva by mezuzah, and it says regarding entering Eretz Yisrael, to write it on stones. Over there, it wasn't on a parchment, it was on stones. So basically, you have the word ksiv by a get, which is parchment. You have ksiv by entering Eretz Yisrael, which is stones. And you have ksiv by mezuzah. So where do you draw the line? So the Gemara says, well, near l'midaime. Doning ksiva neheges l'dairis, meksiva neheges l'dairis, v'dan ksiva neheges l'dairis, meksiva she'ena neheges l'dairis. It makes more sense to draw a comparison between mezuzah and a get, which are long-term things. Mezuzah is every house, get is every marriage that ends, as opposed to the ksiva of when you enter Eretz Yisrael, which is a one-time mitzvah. When they entered Eretz Yisrael, they had to write the Torah down. That's not something that happened to l'dairis. Therefore, it makes sense to compare the mezuzah to a get. And we also find another ksiva that says, there's another source, the pasuk says in Yirmiyah, that he'll koisev al sefer b'diyos. Ksiva has to be written on a parchment. I don't understand. He told me it has to be written on parchment, but it says ala mezuzos. Just b'chalal. You're saying that because a ksiva, forget about that. I don't understand. You tell me it has to be written on parchment. It says al hamezuzos. You write it on the doorpost. So you should definitely have to write on the doorpost. Doesn't the words, meaning, you tell me there's Xer Shabbat, but what do the words of the pasuk tell me? That it's be Avla Mezuzas. So how do you know it's supposed to be a parchment b'chalal? So says the Gemara, Amakra Uksav Tam, Ksiva Tama, V'Hadar Mezuzas. No, it doesn't say carve it into the mezuzah. Uksav Tam ala mezuzas. I mean, Uksav Tam means write it regular on a cloth, and then put that cloth ala mezuzas. So the truth is, the way you read the pasuk now, according to Rav Ashi, you don't actually need the Gzeir Shava anymore. The whole Gzeir Shava was to explain that you're supposed to write on a klaf. You don't need it anymore. Uksavtam kama al mezuzos means kseva, write it on a klaf and then put the klaf on the mezuzos. So now what do you need the Gzeir Shava for? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you what. Ilav Gzeir Shava amina lichtave ha'avna lichtave ha'ksifa. If not for the Gzeir Shava, I would think that ksiva means that you could fulfill both. How do you fulfill both? Write it on a stone and then put the stone on the doorpost. That's what I would have thought. Interesting, you would have thought that way. Meaning, I might think that if not for the Gzeir Shava, that a ksiva, that from get, that writing on a parchment is considered ksiva, I would think that ksiva means carving it into the stone. And then I would take that stone and attach it to the doorpost. Once there's a Gzeir Shava telling me that ksiva in the Torah by a get means writing on parchment, so now I know the writing on parchment is a legitimate writing, so now I write on parchment and connect it to the wall. Okay, now we're going to talk about tefillin. Says the Gemara, Arba Parshas of Tefillin Makvazuzu. You need the 4 Parshas of Tefillin. We had this before. Even one letter is ma'akiv, and if the letter is puzzle, the whole mezuzah is puzzle, the whole tefillin is puzzle. Of course. How can you think you're missing a letter? It means the point of the yud. Meaning, of course, if you're missing a letter, it's pasha that it's puzzle. I'm missing the point of the yud, that's also puzzle. So says the Gemara, Hanabi Pshit, that's also pasha. If you're missing a point of the yud, it's not a kosher yud. If it's not a kosher yud, you didn't write the letter. And if you didn't write the letter, it's missing from the parsha. It's pasha. Says the Gemara, Lenitzach Leidach Rav Yehuda, Tam Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol Oy She'ein Gvil Mukaf Lamabru Chaysa Pesula. The Chiddush is the second teaching. Go to the next page. That of course, if you're missing a letter or the letter is written improperly, of course it's puzzle. The Chiddush is, if let's say the letter is touching the next letter, that's also puzzle. That's what the Mishnah means. Okay, so we'll talk about this. The Tefillin Shel Rosh has 4 compartments, as you know. The 4 parashiyos are placed in 4 different compartments. Tan Rabbanan l'taytafos. The way it's written, once with a vav, that's plural, so that's 2. One is written without a vav, so that's singular, and one is without a vav, so 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. Harikan Arba, those are the 4 compartments of the Tefillin Shel Rosh. Now, says the Gemara weiter, Teitafes b'neinecha. So it says Teitafes the 3 times, but one with a vav, so that's 4. That's the 4 compartments of the Tefillin Shel Rosh. Rav Akiva Omer tzarich. He says you don't need it. The word Teitafes means 4. How? Tat b'kisvei shtayim. The word tat in Kasbian is 2. And pas in Africa in Shtayim. It's a chiddush also. It's a big yisai that you see the Torah penetrates all languages and everything. Tat toitafois. Tat is 2 in a certain language, and pas in African is another. Is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Tan Rabbanan. Now, the way the Tefillin Shel Rosh are made up is that it's 4 different parchments in 4 compartments, but that compartment is 1 piece of hide. Meaning, the entire Shel Rosh is 1 hide that's carved into. They hammer it out to make it 4, but it's not 4 different parchment, 4 different hides glued together. So it's 4 parchments in 1 hide. So says the Gemara, maybe you should write 4 parchments, fine, and then take 4 different pieces of hides and glue them together. Meaning maybe the Shel Rosh should be made up of 4 different pieces of leather. Zikaron means a singular sign. So you have the multiple with teitafos, which is 4, and a singular. How do you make multiple and singular? 4 parashiyos, 4 klaf in 1 hide. Zikaron echad amarti loch v'leishnayim b'shlosh zichronis haketzad kaitzan la'arba oiris u'menichan ba'arba batim ba'ar echad. Now says the Gemara, im kasvan ba'ar echad. But if let's say you wrote all 4 parashiyos on 1 single klaf, v'nichan ba'arba batim, but you put them in the 4 batim. So basically what you did is like this. You took the Shel Rosh, the Shel Yad is just 1 long parchment. You did that for the Shel Yad, for the Shel Rosh as well. So what'd you do? You wrote it in 4, but you got to get them in the 4 compartments. So what you do is you leave a space, and you take that 1 long cloth and just allow it to flow like waves. So you push up into 1 compartment, and then leave a space and then roll down, and then a second into another compartment. So it's 1 long cloth put in 4 compartments. Yotza, you're yotza. But according to the first opinion, it's unclear what this machlokes really is. But according to Rabbi, there has to be a space so that none of the words are out of the compartments. So the first compartment is going to have the first parsha, then there'll be a massive space, roll it, then the second parsha is in the second compartment, massive space, all four. Chacham say no, in it sarach. According to Chacham, there doesn't actually have to be a space. Some of the letters can be out of the compartment, that's fine. As long as someone's in, that's fine. And they all agree that you have to put some sort of string or cord separating the compartments. Even though it's one long cloth, there has to be some separation. But technically, you could take the shel yad cloth and put it in the shel rosh. Now, outside of the shel rosh, there are compartments that are clear because there are grooves down. Let's say it's not clear. I'm not sure how that works exactly. Maybe they're sunken in so it looks like one box. So it basically looks like the shel yad somehow. That's possible. That's going to be a problem. Tana Rabbana Keitzad Kaisvin. How do you write the tefillin parshiyos? So tefillah shel yad kais al arecha. The tefillah shel yad is written on one long cloth. But let's say you took 4 different cloths, and instead of putting in the shel rosh, you put in the shel yad. That's fine, yatsa. But you have to glue them together, meaning they cannot be 4 different parchments. They have to be one parchment. So how do you take 4 parchments and turn it into one? Glue it together. Shenamar, how do I know that it has to be at the end of the day? It could be written on 4 different parchments, but it has to be glued together when it's placed in, one parchment placed in. Kashem ois al yadecha means that kashem she'ois achas mebechutz. It means that the shel yad ois achas means singular. The same way the shel rosh has 4 boxes, but the shel yad, it's just one smooth box on the outside. So it has to be one parchment on the inside. One box outside, one box inside. One parchment inside. Kach oisachas min befrin. Div Rav Yehuda. That's Rav Yehuda's shita. So Rav Yehuda says you could take the 4 parshiyos and put on 4 different cloths, but they have to be glued together. Rav Yossi Amin Tzarech. Rav Yossi says they don't have to be glued together. You could take 4 different parchments and put them into the box and shel yad, and it's fine. Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi said further. Umodali Rav Yehuda berebi, and Rav Yehuda agrees with me. Shem ein lo tefillin shel yad. If you do not have a tefillin shel yad, yeshel shtei tefillin shel rosh. I don't have a shel yad, but I have 2 tefillin shel rosh. Here's what I do: take the second shel rosh. According to Rabbi Yossi, you could take the 4 parshiyos of the shel rosh and put them in a shel yad. So technically, a shel rosh can be turned into a shel yad because it's the same. What's the only issue? The shel rosh has the grooves on the outside, and the shel yad is one box. So here's what you do: take a piece of leather, cover the shel rosh, so the shel rosh now looks like one box, and you're fine. According to Rav Yossi, that's an option, and Rav Yossi says Rav Yehuda agrees with me. Now the strange part about that is, Rav Yehuda was the one who disagreed with him. Rav Yehuda said no, they have to be glued together on the inside. Rav Yossi one who said you don't have to. Rav Yossi says Rav Yehuda agrees with me. You could take a shel rosh, the way it is with 4 different parshiyos and 4 different compartments. Just take a piece of leather, cover the outside so it looks like one smooth box, and you're good to go. So it says the Gemara. What do you mean Rav Yehuda agrees with me? That they're arguing with each other. What do you mean he agrees? That's Kufa the Machlokes. You see from Rav Yossi that Rav Yehuda eventually rescinded his shita. Meaning originally they had a Machlokes, then at some point Rav Yehuda said, you know what, I agree with Rav Yossi, and that's why Rav Yossi said he agrees with me. Meaning there is no Machlokes anymore. I won. Like he was moided to me. Fine. You do see from over here is that according to Rav Yossi, you can take a shel rosh, and you have the inside 4 parshiyos, which Rav Yossi said is fine. You take a piece of leather and cover on the outside. Perfect. So now it looks like a shel yad. Perfect. What about the fact that Mailim Kodesh Meridin shel rosh is holier than a shel yad because the shel rosh has the shin on the outside and it's got the dalet in the back. It's a holier sugya. So how Mailim Kodesh Meridin? Eini is true of a shalach Rav Chanani Mishnah Rav Yochanan. Tefillah shel yad oisin shel rosh. You could take a shel yad and make a shel rosh because that's Mailim Kodesh. But shel rosh and oisin shel yad. But you can't take a shel rosh and turn it into shel yad. Fish ein Meridin Mekdushim Chamur L'Kedush Gal because Mailim Kodesh Meridin. Because the shin on the outside is part of Hashem's name. You also have the dalid, and you also have the dalid and the yud is by the. So you have the shin is on the shel rosh, and the dalid and the yud is on the shel yad. So the point is, right, with the dalid is by that knot, and the yad is the yud is you put on the middle finger. The point is, the first letter of Hashem's name is found in the shel rosh. So it's Mailam Kodesh Meridin. So says the Gemara. So how could Rav Yossi say that you could take a shel rosh and turn it into a shel yad? The answer is you never used it. If you used it as a shel rosh, you already wore it once. Then you're right. It's good as shel rosh. This was just made the Sefer made it. It was never worn before. So you could convert it to a Shal Yad, because it's not Ma'alim Kodesh and Meridim. It's not Meridim, because it was never used before. There's an opinion that holds that merely setting something aside already establishes it. So the Sefer making it as a Shal Roish should make it as a Shal Roish. The answer is, even if you hold Hazmana Milsa, the Asni Meikar, you already made a stipulation. Meaning, because you made a stipulation, meaning the Sefer, we're not talking about a case where the Sefer just made it as a Shal Rosh. The Sefer made it as a Shal Rosh, but he stipulated, if you need this as a Shal Yad, you could do it. And that's why you're allowed to. Okay, so from here until the end, finish up. These are the Parshias. Article has a good description. The major difference between Rashi and Rabbi Tam is from the right side to the left side. The 4 Parshias, according to Rashi, and this is from the description of the person seeing it, meaning it's in front of me. Like, I'm looking at you while you're wearing tefillin. I will see on the right side Shema, then V'hoya Kivyacha. I'm sorry, I'll see Kaddish Likavachar, then V'hoya Kivyacha, then Shema, and then V'hoyim Shema. That's Rashi's Mahalach. Rabbi Tam famously put the V'hoyas in the middle. So it's Kaddish the same, V'hoya Kivyacha the same, but Rabbi Tam flips the last two. Shemoya and then Shema. There are other opinions, the Ravid and Shemusha Rabbah, which is that he takes all 4 and flips them. The Shemusha Rabbah is Rashi, just mirror imaged. Okay, fine, but you have Rashi Rabbeinu Tam. Taner Rabbanon, Kesad Kesidron, what is the proper order? So it's Kaddish Li, so far so good, V'hoya Kivyacha on the right side, and then Shema V'hoyim Shemoya Mismol. So Rashi reads it in that order. You have Kaddish and V'hoya Kivyacha on the right side, and then Shema V'hoyim Shema on the left side. So that's the 4 orders of Rashi. Rabbi Tam doesn't like that, because Rabbi Tam says, you wouldn't say, if it was in the proper order, like the Gemara is describing the order, it would be Kaddish V'hoya Shema V'hoyim Shemoya. You wouldn't say Kaddish V'hoya miyamin, Shema V'hoyim Shemoya mismol. You wouldn't say the right and the left. You would just say this is the order. So according to Rabbi Tam, this is how you're supposed to read the Gemara. Kaddish V'hoya on the right side, and then Shema V'hoyim Shemoya start from the left side. So the V'hoyas are in the middle. Okay, Machlek is Rashi Rabbeinu Tam. But the point is, let's go with Rashi. It's Kaddish V'hoya Shema V'hoya. The problem is Vatani Ibcha. Isn't there a shita that holds the exact opposite? So you said Kaddish V'hoya Shema V'hoya, but there's a brisa that says it's V'hoya Shema V'hoya Kaddish. So what's going on? So Rabbi loy kasha kan mi minishal koire kan mi minishal maniach by koire decision. The answer is both brises agree with each other. It's just a matter of whose perspective. When the brisa says it's Shema, it's Kaddish V'hoya Shema V'hoya, that's referring to me looking at you wearing it. So it's from the right side of the reader. When the brisa says the exact opposite, which is V'hoya Shema V'hoya Kaddish, that's from the perspective, the right side of the wearer, because it's a mirror image of each other. But they're both saying the same thing. I will stop here. We'll pick it up tomorrow.